So the Half-Life series has finally come to a close, and I figured the best way to finish off the entire playthrough is to just give my final thoughts on it in a bit of an epilogue type video, which is what you're seeing right now. First of all, just wanted to go ahead and say that I really do hope that you guys enjoy the playthrough as a whole. I had a lot of fun with this game. It was a bumpy ride a little bit, but I think it was just because I was just getting started. There were some things that I wasn't used to. I was just learning how to actually, talk and carry a show by myself, and hopefully whatever game I decide to go with next, well, we already know what I'm going with next, it's the 2 expansions, but after that, I mean, things will go a little bit better. Overall, though, I think Half-Life is probably still one of my favorite games of all time, although only slightly below its sequel, mainly for sentimental reasons. What you gotta understand is that I didn't play any of the Half-Life games until I got them with the Orange Box for Christmas a couple of years ago, and Half-Life 2 was like my first step into both cinematic and story-driven gameplay, and it stuck with me for years. And it was the game that got me into PC gaming in general, and that's quite a feat, honestly, because I've been a big PC gamer ever since. I was a console gamer growing up, so it was a pretty big shock to the system to play something so unique. And then it was only after that that I went back and played through Half-Life 1, but I never completed it. And this whole series in general was kind of a sentimental, what do you even call it, milestone, I guess, where I go back and play a game that I've been meaning to play because it's it was a predecessor to a game that has a lot of meaning to me, and I loved the hell out of it. Hell, I'd even say there are some parts of it that stand the test of time even better than the sequel does. Overall, I think Half-Life's strengths can be summed up mostly in just how... I'm trying to find the correct word for this. Atmospheric, how story-driven it is, and how intriguing it all is. The gameplay, of course, is just as fun as any old-school shooter should be. A lot of very fast-paced, a lot of weapon variety, a lot of enemies constantly swarming you, and an emphasis on using the environment organically to your advantage is one thing that I greatly miss in shooters, and the Half-Life series was kind of my first taste of hardcore PC shooters, so there you go. It was that and Team Fortress 2, but if we're talking about single-player adventure style, then this whole series holds a lot more sentiment. I keep using that word. Just holds a lot more value to me than TF2 does, even though I love TF2 to death. Now, what should I talk about in general about Half-Life? Well, I think the environments, for one thing, kind of vary. Again, this is an older game, so I can't be too harsh on, the graphics. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking like the design of the levels in general, and the look of some of the environments that you adventure through. Overall, I'd say most of them are fairly positive, and the environment that is Black Mesa is pretty neat to kind of explore, and that's another thing. The level design in general of Black Mesa is massive. There are, even through my entire playthrough, there were several portions that I utterly skipped because I stumbled across the right way to go. So there was still a lot of stuff throughout the entirety of the facility that I didn't see. Some stuff that I probably could have gone and maybe unlocked a weapon early, maybe saw a bit more story unfold. I know there are several spots where G-Man is supposed to appear, and other such stuff like that. The open-endedness of Half-Life is really what gives it its, again, I'm having trouble thinking of words. I don't have a script for this, by the way. I just hopped on a microphone and decided that I was just going to speak my mind about a game that, I utterly loved. The open-endedness of the map's designs and the ability to just kind of go off the beaten path, explore, even, go off and explore, find power-ups, find ammo, find health, find armor, fight other enemies, hell, even find weapons earlier than you're really supposed to, is extremely fun, and it manages to keep the linear progression while still allowing a lot of player freedom to mess with the environment and explore to their heart's content. And like I said, I missed a lot of stuff, so I'm probably going to be going back in my free time and just, without recording, just going back and seeing what all the game had left to offer. And this is why I'm looking forward to doing Opposing Force and Blue Shift. It's more to explore, more to experience. I don't want the Half-Life train to stop. But moving on from the the environments and level design, let's talk a bit about the gameplay. There really isn't much to talk about, honestly. It's a shooter, fairly simplistic gameplay, but again, carrying the spirit of older PC games such as Doom and Quake, you carry a crap ton of weapons, and I am so happy that you're able to carry more than 2 or 3 at a time. Even games that allow you to carry up to like 4 or something like that, like the Borderlands series, I kind of find lacking because there are some times where I want to swap from a pistol to a machine gun to a rocket launcher to a laser cannon and all the way around the entire weapon spectrum. And the weapons in general I found pretty interesting because very few of them were extraterrestrial or supernatural in some way, or science fiction-y. The most science fiction the game got was the Tau cannon and the gluon gun. Everything else was fairly realistic. And of course, you know, the alien weapons and such, like the B-gun. I know it's probably called something else, but I'm calling it the B-gun, so sue me. And the little critters that you toss out that prove to be fairly useless. But I found it was interesting that the weapon choices were all mostly real-life weapons, because it just goes to show guns in real life are pretty damn powerful, so no reason to invent a weapon called the BFG when we already have a BFG in the form of an RPG. But you know, I still enjoyed Doom and such, but I'm just saying, I think the weapon choice was quite interesting. What else to talk about? The story. The environments, the atmosphere. If I haven't nailed it into your head by now, I am a guy who is big on game story and games setting up atmosphere well, and ensuring that the feel of the area is... Again, having trouble thinking of words because I just started this up out of nowhere. Conveying the feel of the environment to the player in a way that is non-intrusive, such as the opening of Half-Life. Really, I had no problem with the game taking time setting things up and just basically showing off the game engine because it allowed you to take in the feel of the facility, and that was something that I found extremely enjoyable. I said this in a comment section, actually, that I actually far more enjoy when a game takes its time, and an example would be walking down a corridor, being completely silent, only your footsteps are echoing off the walls, and that goes on for a couple of minutes. There's nothing going on, you're just alone in a hallway, knowing that something is coming, but you don't know when. Rather than, you know, explosions happening at every single half second, an NPC character constantly shouting orders at you and leading you on by a leash. I prefer things to be quiet. I prefer things to be more minimalistic. And that's why I enjoyed this game and I enjoyed the sequel so much, because it takes advantage of that environmental ambience. Now, the sequel adds in a lot more ambient sounds, but I think it serves it a bit well. It goes for a much more different tone than Half-Life 1 did. In Half-Life 1, you are a researcher who turned a vigilante hero by who basically got caught in the midst of an alien invasion and had to pick up a gun and survive. In Half-Life 2, you are versed in fighting for yourself and are fighting to help a resistance movement. So it's two different themes, and so I think the more ambient focus in Half-Life 2 with more sounds and a bit more music and such is definitely, it fits that game more, is what I'm saying. I'm not articulating my thoughts that well, but it's hard to do that on the spot. But basically, two different games, two different stories, two different atmospheres. So I think they're both entitled to do what they want to convey that atmosphere to the player. Final thoughts on Half-Life 1, though? I don't think I can say anything else that anybody else hasn't already. Well, other than the fact that Zen can go die. I absolutely love the game, in every single sense of the word. I think it stands the test of time perfectly, and I look forward to doing its expansions, and good God, Valve, please, for the love of God, give us something on Half-Life 3. Confirmation, deny, anything. We just want some closure at this point, man. Either way, I still love the game, and I hope you all enjoyed the playthrough as a whole. So, with that said, I got nothing more to share on the subject, and this is how I plan to end all my playthroughs in the future. Just give my final thoughts on the game in a short epilogue-type video, and just sit in front of a microphone and talk for a bit, just kind of speak my mind, and I hope you enjoy that. This is essentially a vlog video without the vlog. May put more face cam in the future, we'll see. It depends on the reaction. So, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the series, hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you continue to enjoy the content that I bring to you. I love doing these things, guys. Like, I cannot emphasize enough that I do heavily enjoy providing content for you guys to enjoy, and I enjoy interacting with you all in the comment section. And honestly, you all have been very, very helpful in terms of figuring things out in the game itself, so thank you all for sharing your knowledge with me and sharing your experiences. I appreciate it to hell and back. So with that said, once again, hope you enjoyed, and as always, y'all have a lovely evening, and I will see you next time.